Well, Becky, thank you for having us today. I think the most important thing to realize is the kingdom has not put normalization at the heart of its policy. It's put peace and prosperity at the heart of its policy. So that looks at resolving the finite cause of the Palestinian people who deserve a state. They deserve sovereignty. They deserve a pathway that is irrevocable to their situation. Today, you're talking about 30,000 people who've died. Let's talk about those who are living, the children whose limbs are amputated, the people who are hiding in churches. That is not okay in any society to have sewage running around. This is not a solution to peace. This is not a solution to sovereignty. It's also not a path to safety. And while the kingdom fully recognizes the need for Israel to feel safe, it cannot be at the expense of the Palestinian people. So in our plight, in our journey over the past, and not since October 7th, as horrible and vile and disgusting as what happened that day was, we have to go to the root cause of the instability in the region. 75 years of occupation. Those 75 years led to a plethora and an outroar and a spilling of violence across our region. To your point, it's not complicated. The solution is obvious, and the solution is now. And the solution is a two-state solution. The kingdom, since the time of King Fahd, has pushed forward that policy. Since the Arab proposal of peace, we've pushed with King Abdullah for that policy. And you heard the Crown Prince say in his own voice, we've never been closer than we were before. But today, cooler heads must prevail. There's trauma and pain on both sides. I can't take that back. But what we can do is cease fire now. Because how many more children need to die? How many more limbs need to be lost? How many more parents need to lose their livelihood? It can't happen anymore. And the kingdom has condemned violence on both sides. We do not condemn civilian violence in any capacity. It doesn't matter in which country, which people, which faith. At the end of the day, we are human beings. And human beings today must say, ceasefire now. So the kingdom has been quite clear. While there is violence on the ground and the killing persists, we cannot talk about the next day or the day after because we have to solve the immediate. But what I can tell you is the kingdom has continuously extended a hand for peace. But when we look at the other hand, that carries the Palestinian people and statehood for them, and that is a responsibility that we have. And it's a responsibility that we take seriously. And peace means we have, as I said, the kingdom's policy is a finite, irrevocable path that is today for the Palestinian people. That is how we get security. We carry peace, we carry prosperity, we carry safety, and we deliver it through the Palestinian statehood.
How concerned are you about the wider spillover at this point?
I'm profoundly concerned, Becky. I am profoundly concerned because today the whole Middle East has been united in its call for peace and de-escalation. But the longer that this goes on, it is inevitable that either a rogue entity or a mistake will happen that will take us back, and I hate to say it, but back to the Stone Age. It is a hot and volatile area, my part of the world. And we do not want the burden for our great-grandchildren to say, we could have had a solution. We could have resolved this. We didn't need to be in the state that we're in. And today, leadership says, I feel pain, but I will still do the right thing. My people are hurting, but I will still do the right thing because the future demands it of us. And so we recognize the shock to the Israeli people of what happened on October 7th. But we have to recognize the daily, constant shock that is happening to the men and women of Gaza. And it is spilling over to the West Bank. And it is not something that we can turn a blind eye to.
And Ambassador, it is spilling into the region. We are seeing a wider regional conflict.
Correct.
And you worry?
I absolutely worry because it's not what we need today. Vision 2030 is very clear. The only path to prosperity for the Middle East is unity, it's economic prosperity, it is a balanced, stable region where we, for once and for all, can stop being the headline because of trauma and death and violence, but we can be a headline on prosperity. We've shown it can happen. You've seen the turnaround of the kingdom. It is impossible to say that it's not possible anywhere else. And we are here ready to take a leadership position. But it is also impossible to move in and lead when you have a population of people who are starving, when you have aid on borders that can't come in. We want better for our world, and we are taking a leadership position, but it's impossible when thousands of bombs are being dropped. So I think one of the most critical points that you talked about is this lack of collaboration and this competitiveness. It's very healthy to be competitive, but not at the expense of the global economy, global peace and prosperity. And what we have to look at right now is how do we transfer the competition into collective impact, collective work, because that's the only way that we're going to solve not only geopolitical issues, economic issues, climate issues. When we look at the climate crisis, what is happening in the kingdom will impact the whole region. What happens in the United States of America impacts its whole region. We don't have walls between countries and borders. What happens in the air, what happens in the water, we're all interconnected. And until we recognize the interconnectivity of all of us as human beings, places, land, conflicts, we are not going to come to the solutions that we want. When you look at the Ukraine crisis and the war that's happening there, you'll have some countries say, what does that have to do with me? It has everything to do with you. Food security, climate, the cost of war to the climate. I don't hear anybody talking about it, whether it's in the Ukraine, whether it's in the Congo, whether it's in Sudan, whether it's in Gaza. There is an absolute cost to all of this. When we look at food security, we have to collaborate with each other. We have to collaborate on economically. We have to collaborate on programming. We have to collaborate on opportunity. And I don't see that anymore. We have to revitalize institutions like the United Nations. We have to re-engage actively with the G20, with the Arab League, with the OIC. We have these formulas. We're just not activating them to the best of our collective abilities because we're looking at competition, not collaboration, to solve transnational and global problems.